Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. My name is Aaron Blake. I'm 37, a project manager for a commercial build-out firm in Dallas. Tonight started like any other Friday in June. Heat on the asphalt, ceiling fans on at a friend's backyard get-together in Lakewood, the usual talk about property values and new restaurants. Then my wife laughed at a joke that wasn't funny and said, loud enough for the table, "If you don't like it, find someone better then." I didn't answer. I looked at the condensation on my glass, took 3 breaths, and finished my food. The signs didn't begin tonight. They showed up months ago, small enough to ignore. She stopped taking my hand when we crossed the street. She started introducing me as Aaron, he's in project management, with a tone that made my job sound minor. Texts got shorter. Plans got vague. She came home later from team drinks with no names. At first I called it stress. My spring pipeline at work had been rough. 2 proposals lost in final rounds. 1 client closing after a merger. I kept that to myself and kept working. I thought she would too. At home, small shifts became routine. She left my coffee mug unwashed even when she ran the dishwasher. She stopped asking about my schedule and started informing me of hers. If I suggested a weekend away, she'd say, "Maybe when your projects aren't wobbling." The word she liked was wobbling. She was listening just enough to criticize. Friends noticed before I admitted anything. 2 of them started checking on me after dinners. A shoulder squeeze. "You good?" I kept it at, "Yeah, just busy." Some nights I believed it. Some nights I felt like I was waiting in my own house. We had a group chat with her friends and their husbands. It used to be restaurants, game nights, memes. Lately it turned into digs aimed at me. Someone posted a clip about dating up, and she replied with a crying laugh emoji. "Stop. You'll get Aaron in trouble." They laughed. I muted the thread for the day. There's a difference between teasing and contempt. Teasing has affection, contempt doesn't. It showed when she started correcting me in front of people. If I said a project was in Addison, she'd say, "Plano, actually." If I said I'd emailed a vendor, she'd say, "Finally." Each one was small. Together, they mattered. Work didn't help. I kept the team moving. Permits, schedules, change orders. But there was no recognition. A couple of deals not closing became the only part of my job mentioned at home. "Any luck closing something good?" she asked one night while scrolling her phone. No eye contact. Just a check to reinforce her view of me. I took out the trash and wrote 3 follow-ups before bed. Tonight's gathering was straightforward. Burgers, music, a cornhole set under the oak. She told a story about a client dinner. Her voice was bright. I stood beside her with a plate, listening. When we sat, conversation shifted to work. One guy mentioned a roofing contract that came in high. Another joked about getting squeezed in Q2. She looked at me, almost bored. "Aaron's an expert in getting squeezed. If he doesn't like it, he can always upgrade, find someone better, then." 2 people laughed too loud. One looked at the table. Someone asked about more beer. I said yes, even though mine was half full. I didn't respond. I moved plates, carried the charcoal to the shed, and talked about the Cowboys draft. She moved from group to group. Cheerful. I noted what was said, who heard it, what it changed. I drove us home at 10. She sang along to the radio and asked if we had eggs for the morning. I said yes. At home the townhouse was quiet, the AC cycling, the ice maker dropping a cube. I put leftovers in the fridge, rinsed the tongs, set them on a towel. She went upstairs to take her makeup off and called down. "Can you lock the back door?" I locked it. I stood in the dark kitchen a minute longer than necessary. The fridge seemed louder. I wasn't angry. I was evaluating. First, the public line she delivered. Second, the pattern that allowed it. Third, my silence. I'm not ashamed of being quiet. That's when I decide. I walked upstairs, saw her laying out clothes, watched her move around me without acknowledging me. I said goodnight. She said it back. No kiss or touch. We've gone to bed like roommates for a while. I set my phone to do not disturb. I opened notes and typed 4 words. Ask her tomorrow. Why? I needed one answer with no one else involved. I turned off the lamp and stared at the ceiling. Only the fan moved. There's a point where small things stop being small. A tone, a glance, a throwaway line can define the whole situation. I let it build. That's on me. But tonight, with friends listening and nothing to obscure it, she made it explicit. If you don't like it, find someone better. I heard it clearly. I don't respond in front of people. I'll ask at home, in private. How did we get here? Why did she start treating me with public disrespect? At 2:07 a.m., I woke and picked up my phone. The note was still open. I added a fifth word, decide. Not a threat, just the next step after the answer. I put the phone down and slept. Tomorrow is for the question. The rest comes after. The morning after the party, I made coffee and scrambled eggs. She came down in a robe, hair up, humming. I set her cup on the counter and asked what I'd typed at 2:07 a.m. Why are you treating me like this? No anger, just the question. She didn't sit. She took a sip and said, I've been thinking this way for months. Her tone was casual. It started when you failed to close those deals. A few clients passed. It made me look at things differently. I asked, differently how? It's not personal. It's results. You stopped closing good deals. I need someone who's moving up, not wobbling. She used that word again. Then she smiled at the mug. So your respect depends on my close rate. I said. Don't be dramatic, she replied. Women need to feel secure. When you're not winning, it shows. It affects everything. I've kept the mortgage, the bills, the savings exactly where they've always been, I said. Stability isn't the same as growth, she answered, already walking toward the stairs. Anyway, you asked. That's my answer. No hesitation. Just a statement that she'd downgraded me months ago based on a number she could track. I rinsed the pan and drove to the office. In the job trailer, I did what I always do. Went through submittals, clarified a drywall change, called the city about an inspection window. Nothing flashy, just the work that keeps projects moving. At lunch, I opened my notes app and typed what she'd said, word for word. I wanted accuracy. Memory blurs. I wasn't going to let it. That night, I tried again, to confirm. You said you've been thinking this way for months. Was there a moment that started it? She didn't look up from the TV. The Henderson bid. Then the Oak Ridge pivot. Then the warehouse client, who went with a cheaper firm. It's a pattern. You asked. What do you want from me? Either fix it, she said, or accept that I'll act accordingly. Accordingly meaning disrespect, I said. She muted the television, finally looked at me, and said, accordingly meaning I'm not pretending I'm impressed when I'm not. I nodded once. Got it. There wasn't anything else to say. I wasn't going to sell her on my worth in our living room. The metric she picked had replaced everything else. 2 weeks later, we went to birthday drinks for one of her friends at a wine bar off Henderson. She had a glass at home while getting ready, then another in the Uber. I stuck to water. I went to observe, not to play along. The place was loud. Low tables, high voices, a server who kept losing track of orders. I rotated through small talk. A couple planning a trip to Fredericksburg, another house hunting, the birthday friend showing photos from a class. My wife leaned into the circle, animated and flushed. When work came up, someone asked how things were for me. Before I could answer, she put her hand on my shoulder and said, he's fine. He's learning to live with almost. 2 of her friends laughed. I let it pass. 20 minutes later, someone asked what I do day to day. I explained permits, subs, schedules, solving problems without blowing the budget. He said it sounded like a lot to manage. I nodded. My wife said, it's only managing when everything actually stays on track. Someone coughed into a napkin. The server came back with a tray and 3 glasses tipped before they reached the table. The spill distracted everyone. I looked at her then. Not a stare down, just to show I was paying attention. She met my eyes for a second and lifted her glass. The light was flattering. The words weren't. I didn't address the table. I leaned toward her and said, Lo, you're repeating yourself. She smiled. Because it's true. Then she told a story about a client dinner that had gone well. People cheered. I clapped twice. By the 3rd round, she was sloppy, louder, careless. She asked other couples how they handled it when one person wasn't meeting professional responsibilities. People deflected. A friend said, we don't keep score. Another changed the subject. My wife pressed again, tapping my arm. Aaron loves to talk about accountability. Right, babe? I said, I'm not playing this. She rolled her eyes. Always so sensitive. Then she repeated the line from the backyard party. If he doesn't like it, he can always find someone better. The table went quiet. Even the server paused. One husband stood to pay. The birthday friend asked for water. I finished my club soda and checked the time. 9:41 p.m. I stood, left a cash tip for drinks I didn't have, and told the group to enjoy the night. No speech. I stepped outside into the heat and ordered a car. She followed a minute later, unsteady in heels. Where are you going? She asked. Home, I said. You can come or stay. In the car, she said, you embarrassed me walking out. I looked at the map on my phone. You embarrassed yourself? I said, calm. I asked you at home why this started. You answered. Tonight you repeated it to your friends while drunk. That's the whole picture. She muttered about me not taking a joke. I stayed quiet until we reached our street. At home, she went upstairs and slammed the bathroom door. I took out the trash, wiped the counter, and opened my notes. I wrote the location, the lines, the timestamps, the part where her friends didn't laugh, the part where I left. Then I added, I will speak once more. Not in a bar, not in front of anyone else. In our kitchen, sober, with a consequence. I slept without an alarm. In the morning, she moved slowly with a headache. I made coffee, slid her a glass of water, and waited until she'd finished half. Then I said, last night crossed the line. I won't live like that. She rubbed her temples. You're making it bigger than it is. No, I said. I let it stay small for months. That was my mistake. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the tone. So what? You're going to lecture me. I'm going to be clear, I said. And I'm only going to be clear once. That was the point. I moved forward. I didn't raise my voice. I set my hands on the counter and prepared to give her two things even a hangover couldn't blur, a deadline and a choice. I set the mug in front of her and pushed a glass of water across the counter. Sunday, 9 a.m., light through the blinds, the house quiet, the AC clicking. I kept my hands flat on the countertop. You have 48 hours, I said. By Tuesday at 9 p.m. She looked up, eyes tired, waiting for the rest. It's simple, I said. Either you apologize, respect me, and act like a partner again, or you pack your things and leave this house. No in between. No probation. No more public shots. She smiled. You're serious? Yes. What does apologize even mean to you? It means you say, I was wrong. Not, I'm sorry you felt hurt. It means you acknowledge the two events, the backyard line and the wine bar repeat, and you correct it with the same audience you used, group chat and your friends. Clear and direct. No excuses. She leaned on the island. And respect? Private and public, I said. In this house, no contempt. No sarcasm about my work. Ask, don't sneer. In public, no jokes at my expense. If someone asks about my job, you don't answer for me. If you're tempted to use us for jokes, you step away and reset. If alcohol leads you to say things you shouldn't, you don't drink at social events for a while. You want therapy, we go. You want to rebuild, I'll meet you there. But that stops today. She folded her arms. And if I don't accept your policy? You pack by Tuesday at 9, I said. I won't debate it, revisit it, or sit through another test. I won't raise my voice. I won't slam doors. You just won't live here. We were silent. She watched my face for a reaction. I'd already lived through months of small cuts and 2 public blows. This was a boundary, not a mood. She tried different arguments. So a couple of failed deals make me a monster, and a couple of jokes make you judge and jury? She took a breath, rubbed her forehead, softened. You're stressed. Work has you wound up. You're taking everything personal. I asked why you're treating me like this, I said. You told me it's because I didn't close a few deals. You repeated it in public. I'm done clarifying. The terms are clear. If you choose me, act like it. If not, you leave. She stared at the sink. You'd throw away a marriage over this? I'm ending the version where contempt is normal, I said. If we keep that, we don't have a marriage anyway. She laughed under her breath. You think ultimatums work on me? I think clarity works on both of us. I grabbed my keys, went to the hardware store, and made 2 new copies of the garage remote. One for me, one for the office drawer. I wasn't barricading the house. I was avoiding surprises. Back home, I inspected the rooms, closets, and drawers. Not snooping. Taking stock. If she left, what needed boxing, what needed a receipt, what needed a locksmith. I put the passports in the office safe. I checked the car titles. I noted the account logins I'd need to separate if Tuesday came with no change. At lunch, I texted the deadline in writing. Tuesday, 9 p.m. apology plus correction plus change in behavior. Or you leave. No further discussion. I'll be civil. Please be the same. Read. No reply. I kept the afternoon normal. Reviewed shop drawings, sent 2 RFIs, set a pre-con meeting for Wednesday. At 4, A prospect from last quarter called to revisit a TI package we'd lost narrowly. I asked questions and booked a site visit for Thursday. I didn't text her that update. Sunday evening, she moved around me. I made pasta, left a plate for her, and went for a walk. A neighbor waved. The heat was dropping. I ran the timeline. 48 hours meant all of Monday and all of Tuesday until 9. Enough time for someone who wants to repair, not enough to stall. That was the point. Monday morning, I left early without a goodbye. At 10:15 a.m., she texted, "We need to talk later." I replied, "After work." 7:30, kitchen. At 7:30, I was at the island again. She stood with her hands around a mug she didn't need. "Here's my apology," she said. "I'm sorry if what I said embarrassed you. I didn't mean it like that. I was joking. I'll be more careful about what I say around your sensitive spots." "Okay." "No," I said. "That's not an apology. That's blame." Her eyes narrowed. "Then write the script for me, Aaron." "I already did this morning," I said, and slid a single sheet across the counter. 3 bullet points. I was wrong to disrespect my husband in public. I repeated it while drinking and made it worse. I will stop. I'll correct it in the group chat and with the friends who were there. I'll treat him with respect at home and in public. She stared at it. "You're unbelievable. You asked for the script," I said. "You have 25 hours left. Use them or don't." She didn't pick up the paper. She went to the sink and set the mug down hard. "You're turning me into the villain." "You did that," I said. "I'm offering a way out." She went upstairs. I left the paper on the island and went for a run. 3 miles, same loop, same playlist. Back at the house, the paper was gone. I didn't ask where. Tuesday, I treated like any other day. Work, calls, punch list. At noon, she sent a photo of a bouquet at her office. "See? Other people think I'm worth something." I didn't answer. At 3, "I might be late tonight. Dinner with the team." I replied, 9 p.m. is the deadline." She sent a line of dots. Then nothing. At 8:12, I set her suitcase by the front door. Empty. I put a roll of tape on the coffee table and a stack of flattened boxes by the wall. I wasn't packing her things. I was making it clear. At 8:41, I put my phone face up on the counter and set an alarm for 9 p.m. I didn't pace. I wiped the stovetop and took out the trash. At 8:56, the group chat filled with photos from last weekend. No message from her. At 8:59, keys hit the lock. She walked in at 9 p.m., perfume strong, smile practiced. "You're not actually doing this," she said, looking at the suitcase, the boxes, the clock. "I already did," I said. 48 hours. The terms were clear. She tried a grin. "You're really going to make me say your script?" "You were willing to say the other lines in public," I said. "This you say once, and you mean it." She watched me, waiting for me to back down. I didn't. I picked up my phone, stopped the alarm, and set it down. "You have 1 more minute," I said. "Then it's decided." Her face tightened. "You won't follow through." I didn't answer. I watched the clock. The second hand reached 12. She didn't speak. She watched my face and saw nothing change. "Time," I said. She laughed. "You actually think you can put me out?" "I'm doing it," I said. She touched the empty suitcase zipper and turned back. "Aaron, be serious. You're not built for this. You hate conflict." "I hate contempt," I said. "Suitcase is yours. Boxes are by the wall. You have until 10 to pack a bag for a week. The rest we schedule tomorrow." She rolled her eyes, pulled out her phone, and hit record. "My husband is trying to evict me because I hurt his feelings," she said to the camera. I kept my hands on the island. "Film all you want." The deadline was clear. "You chose not to apologize." She dropped the phone. "You're unbelievable." "I'm consistent." She tried guilt. "You're ending a marriage over a couple of jokes." "I'm ending the version where the jokes are me," I said. Bag. 10 p.m. Then she listed what she's done. "I stood by you when you took that lower bonus in 2022. I went to your mother's rehab appointment. I hosted your work dinner when your boss came to town." I nodded. "Noted. Now we're here." She tried seduction. She stepped close, hand on my chest, perfume strong. "You don't actually want me to go? You want to be in charge? Fine, be in charge tonight." I moved her hand away and pointed to the suitcase. Her smile faded. She shifted to blame. "If you were closing better deals, I wouldn't feel this way. You created this. Why would I respect a man who can't win?" I didn't debate it. 9:15. Pack. She dragged the suitcase into the bedroom without opening it. I gave her space. In the kitchen, I texted the group chat. I won't be attending any more events for a while. Please remove me from any plans. Then I muted the thread. At 9:27, she called down. You can't make me leave. I stood at the bottom of the stairs. I can set a boundary and enforce it, I said. You're leaving tonight. She came down with an empty suitcase and sat on the couch. No. I set a folded towel on the coffee table and placed her keys on it. Remove the spare key to the back gate and the garage fob, I said. You'll get a temporary code for pickup tomorrow if you need more. Her eyes narrowed. You changed the codes already? I prepared, I said. I'm calm. She started texting. I'm calling the girls, she said. We'll see what they think. I nodded. Tell them I asked for a real apology and you gave me a performance. A friend called on speaker with sympathy and advice. Sleep on it. Cool down. Give it a week. I said, we've had months. The decision stands. My wife stared at me. The friend went quiet and hung up. At 9:34, she cried. The tears stopped when I didn't move. You don't care about me at all, she said. I care enough to stop this before it ruins the rest, I said. 9:45. She stood and opened the suitcase, threw in some clothes, a charger, a makeup bag, then stared at the closet. I took the trash out and brought the bin to the curb. When I came back, she'd closed the suitcase and was scrolling her phone, jaw tight. 9:53, I said. She zipped the case, looked around, and reached for a framed photo from our first year. I'm taking this. Take anything that's yours, I said. We'll sort the rest later. Tonight is one bag. She held the frame. You're not going to last without me. I didn't answer. I rolled the suitcase to the door, set it upright, and ordered a ride to her sister's address. 6 minutes out. She saw the screen. You're really ordering me a ride. I'm keeping this clean, I said. You'll have the guest room there. Tomorrow at 6 I'll be home for 30 minutes so you can get more. After that we schedule. She picked up her purse, set it down, picked it up again. The doorbell rang. A neighbor passed. I nodded him along. Inside, she tried once more. If I walk out that door, I'm not coming back. Don't text me later with apologies. I won't, I said. This was the apology window. You didn't use it. She stood with the handle in her hand and waited. The car arrived. I messaged the driver, coming out now. She opened the door, paused, and looked back. Last chance to be reasonable. I am, I said. I'm done being optional. She rolled the suitcase out. I locked the deadbolt and stepped onto the porch to see her get into the car. Before the door closed, she said, You'll regret this. I already regret what we tolerated, I said, and closed the door. Inside, the house was quiet. I removed her garage fob from the key ring and put it in the drawer. I changed the keypad code and saved the old one with a clear label. My phone lit up. Group chat. What happened? I didn't respond. I archived the thread. Then I texted her. Your pickup window tomorrow is 6 to 6:30 p.m. I'll be in the kitchen. If you need extra time, email times that work. No late-night arrivals. No reply. Her location moved toward her sister's neighborhood. I rinsed a glass, set it on the rack, and turned off the lights. The boundary was enforced. She spent 48 hours calling it a bluff. Now there was a ride receipt. I slept through my alarm the next morning for the first time in months. No reason to be on edge. At 6 p.m., she arrived for the pickup window I'd set. I opened the door, stepped aside, and pointed to the boxes I'd stacked for her in the entry. 15 minutes in, 15 out, no discussion. She tried starting 3 different conversations on the way to the closet: guilt, nostalgia, then anger. I answered each with the same line. We're not doing this. She filled 2 boxes, took a jacket that wasn't hers, put it back when I said so, and left. The door closed. The house stayed quiet. I wrote a simple email that night. Bullet points of what remains, a time to sort furniture with a neutral third party, an offer to exchange lists so there wouldn't be surprises. I attached the photo of the paper I'd slid across the island, the only apology I would ever accept. It wasn't a weapon. It was a record. She replied with 3 paragraphs about how cold I'd become and how I was choosing ego over love. I archived it. I changed the streaming passwords, disabled the shared grocery list, and moved the joint emergency contact from her to my brother. I left the bank accounts alone for now. We'd do the rest through attorneys. I wasn't rushing to file. I wanted the facts clean, not reactive. The next afternoon, I met with a lawyer I'd bookmarked weeks ago and asked for a checklist: house, car, accounts, insurance, next steps. He spoke in terms and forms. I listened, took notes, and asked for an asset freeze on anything she might try to drain. I didn't send her a heads up. She set the tone. I followed it with structure. Her friends tried to pull me back into the theater. One texted that I owed her a chance to make things right. Another asked for coffee to hear both sides. I replied with the same sentence. There are no sides to respect. No bitterness. Just the floor under all of it. After the third attempt, I muted every thread that still had her name in it. At work, nothing changed and everything did. I showed up, made calls, solved problems, and didn't carry home the day's losses like proof of anything. On Thursday, the prospect who'd circled back asked me to walk their space. We spent an hour on site measuring sight lines and talking phasing. He said he appreciated how I planned around noise during operating hours. I didn't think about proving anything to anyone. I wrote the proposal, priced it clean, and sent it Friday. He signed the following Tuesday. She kept testing the gate. 2 late-night texts in a row, one angry, one sentimental. I blocked the number and sent a single email repeating the rules. Schedule, third party present, nothing unannounced. She shifted to Instagram, posting a quote about outgrowing weak men under a photo taken at a rooftop bar. Mutual friends sent screenshots like they were passing along weather alerts. I thanked them and told them I didn't need updates. The first weekend without her, I cleared the top shelf of the closet and boxed what I never wore. I drove everything to a donation center, then bought 4 new white shirts and a pair of running shoes that actually fit. Not a transformation, just trimming noise. Sunday, I had coffee with my father-in-law's neighbor, an older guy who used to run field ops for a larger contractor. We talked shop for an hour. He didn't ask about my marriage. I appreciated that. 2 weeks in, a friend hosted a small cookout. I almost said no, then said yes for a simple reason. The house wasn't a bunker. I invited someone I'd been talking to for a while, Danica, a PM from a supplier who covered 2 of our sites. We'd had 3 lunches over the last month. Nothing hidden, nothing rushed. She asked hard questions and remembered the answers. She didn't perform. She listened. When I picked her up, she wore flats and brought a salad she'd made herself. She asked what to expect. I told her the truth. You might see my wife there. It won't be a scene. I won't allow it. The yard felt familiar. Same folding chairs, same grill, same corner where I'd counted breaths the night of the first line. People said hello, looked at Danica, then at me, waiting to read the situation. I kept it simple. This is Danica, I said. We work on overlapping projects. She shook hands, made eye contact, asked questions about people's kids and work without steering it back to herself. 10 minutes in, my wife walked through the side gate with a friend behind her. She saw us, blinked, and pasted on a polite smile you could hear from across the yard. She didn't rush me. The circle did the math. A mutual friend called out hello and handed her a drink. She glanced at Danica's salad and said, "Looks healthy." Danica nodded. "We eat on site more than we should," she said. I tried to balance it out. That landed without a sound. My wife tried 2 lines about the weather and the Cowboys, then drifted toward a different group, laughing too loud and checking if we were looking. We weren't. We ate. We cleared plates. We asked the host where he bought the grill cover that hadn't disintegrated in the sun. Normal. That was the point. An hour later, the friend who had watched me take the first hits in silence came over. He didn't congratulate me or gloat. He said, "Good to see you." I said, "You too." When my wife made a slow loop past us, eyeing Danica's hand on my arm, I didn't say anything sharp. I'd already said everything when I enforced the deadline. On our way out, the host asked if we could help carry a cooler to the garage. We did. As we passed the side gate, my wife stepped into our path, all smile and small talk. "So," she said, "new friend." I nodded. "Yes." She held the smile 1 beat too long, the way people do when they're measuring how far they can push without being obvious. "Well," she said, "I'm happy for you." The words had edges, but she kept them wrapped. Danica nodded and said, "Thank you." No extra shine or hidden message. The moment passed. No audience. Priceless, not because she was uncomfortable, but because I wasn't. We left early. In the car, Danica didn't pry. She said, "Your friends seem solid." I said, "They are." We drove with the windows cracked and didn't talk about what the night meant. That's how I knew I'd chosen correctly. Better doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just doesn't ask you to perform. Back home, I sent one final email to my wife with 3 lines. The next inventory date, the attorney's info, and a reminder that all communication stays written. She replied an hour later with a single sentence. "You really won't forgive me?" I typed back. Respect is baseline, not a reward. Without it, there's nothing to forgive. Then I closed the laptop. The house isn't louder now. It's honest. The TV's off more. The Notes app on my phone has fewer entries. I still miss the idea of what we were supposed to be. I don't miss the room we became. She told me to find someone better like it was a dare, certain I wouldn't move. She thought better meant newer or prettier. She never understood that better first meant me, my standards, my time, my peace. The rest followed. I didn't win. I refused to lose myself. That difference is everything.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.